Alright, today we're going to learn about solving quadratic equations by completing the square. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is a little bit of review. We're going to factor our following trinomial. Okay, we're going to do just a couple of these. Okay, remember when you factor your trinomial, you look for a GCF. Number 1 does not have a GCF, so we're going to draw our x. On the top of our x, we will put 16. On the bottom, we will put 8. Factors of 16 that add to 8, positive 4 and positive 4. So my binomials for that will be x plus 4 and x plus 4. Right? That's the first one. The second one that we're going to do is number 4 down here. Okay, so no GCF, so go straight to my x. On the top of my x, I will put a 25. On the bottom, I will put a negative 10. Factors of 25 that add to negative 10, well, that's 5, negative 5, and negative 5. So my binomials will be x minus 5 and x minus 5. Right? These, referring to the original problems, right, are called perfect square trinomials. If you have a perfect square trinomial, you can solve the quadratic equation by square roots. Okay, so perfect square trinomials. Trinomial means 3 terms. The first term is a perfect square. The last term is perfect square. And that last term has to be positive. All right, so we're going to jump to number 2. Factor the perfect square trinomial, then solve the equation by square roots. Look at my equation that I have. I have to first determine, is this 36 a perfect square? Yes, it is a perfect square, so we have a perfect square trinomial. So the first thing that we are going to do is subtract 36. Sorry, not subtract 36. We're going to just straight factor this problem. So at the top of my x, I have 36. On the bottom of my x, I have negative 12. Okay? Factors of 36. Negative 6 and negative 6. In case you haven't noticed by now, the sides of your x with perfect square trinomials are going to be the same number. Okay? So I can rewrite this as x minus 6, x minus 6, and it's going to equal 81. That's something else that makes this lesson different. It does not have to equal 0. Well, I can simplify this and write x minus 6 squared, and it equals 81. Okay? Now, it says to solve using square roots. So to solve this using square roots, I need to take the square root of both sides. Put a plus and a minus there. Why do I take the square root of both sides? Well, square and square root are inverse operations. So the square root and the square, they cancel each other out, and that will leave me with x minus 6 equals positive or negative 9. Why positive or negative? Because it says, remember, a positive number always has 2 square roots. If you want to make a note, that's a positive and a negative square root. Okay? So, going from here, now I can split my problem apart. I can have x minus 6 equals positive 9, or x minus 6 equals negative 9. Well, how do I solve this? Well, obvious inverse operations, so add 6. So x equals 15, and add 6. So x equals negative 3. So my answer in curly brackets would be negative 3, positive 15. What's happening at negative 3, positive 15? Well, recall, that's where you're crossing your x-axis. All right. Number 4, is 9 a perfect square? Yes, it's a perfect square, so we can go ahead and factor. The top of my x, I have a 9. The bottom, I have a 6. My factors, 3 and 3. Okay, go from here. I can just simplify this, x plus 3 squared, and that equals 1. Okay, well now what do? Well, get rid of the square, so I need to take the square root, positive and a negative, don't forget that. Remember, your square root and your squared cancel, and that will leave you with x plus 3 equals positive or negative 1. Split this apart. My cases, so I have x plus 3 equals positive 1, x plus 3 equals negative 1. Okay, go ahead and solve. So I will have minus 3, so x equals 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Add 3, not add 3, subtract 3. So minus 3, so I get x equals negative 4. So my roots, my zeros, my solutions, my x-intercepts for this one, negative 4, negative 2. Okay? Now, this raises our question. What if my c value is not a perfect square? Well, that's what we're going to look at here. Okay? When you do not have a perfect square trinomial, you can create one. This process is called completing the square. Follow the steps below. So here's my original problem, right here. Is 7 a perfect square? Well, no. So follow the steps. Rewrite as x squared plus bx equals c. So subtract 7 on both sides. That will leave me with x squared plus 8x equals negative 7. Okay? That's step 1. Step 2, take half of b, and I'm going to do that over here. So half of b, that means b over 2, and then it says squared. Right? So if I have b over 2, what's my b value? Well, it's 8. So 8 over 2 squared. What's 8 over 2? That's 4 squared. What's 4 squared? That's 16. It says after you've done that, add that to both sides. So x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals negative 7 plus 16. Then step 3, factor your perfect square trinomial. Well, you know how to factor that. So create your little x. What goes on the top? 16. On the bottom, 8. We know my sides are 4 and 4. So x plus 4 squared equals negative 7 plus 16. That is 9. I know what to do from here. This is what we were just doing in the last problems. Take the square root of both sides and solve for your cases. Square root. Don't forget on the square root of 9, you need a plus and a minus. Square root and squared cancel. That leaves you with x plus 4 equals plus or minus 3. From here, now I can split it up to my two cases. X plus 4 equals 3. X plus 4 equals negative 3. Subtract 4 on both sides. So I get x equals negative 1. Minus 4, x equals negative 7. So my solutions, negative 7, negative 1. Okay? Number 5 is what we're going to look at next. Is 27 a perfect square? Well, no. So subtract 27 on both sides. When I subtract 27 on both sides, I'm left with x squared minus 12x equals negative 27. Then I need to do my b over 2 squared. So b over 2 squared. What's my b value? My b value here is negative 12 over 2 squared. Negative 12 over 2 is negative 6 squared, and that gives me 36. So what do I do with 36? Well, I need to add that on both sides. So x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals negative 27 plus 36. The next step then says to factor my trinomial. So on the top of my x, I have 36. On the bottom, I have negative 12. Negative 6 and negative 6. So I can write that as x minus 6 squared equals positive 9. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget, in front of the square root of 9, I need a plus or a minus. That will leave me with x minus 6 equals positive or negative 3. Split them up. X minus 6 equals 3. X minus 6 equals negative 3. Solve. Plus 6 plus 6. X equals 9. Plus 6 plus 6. So x equals negative 3. So my solutions, my x-intercepts, my roots, my zeros, negative 3, 9. I hope this lesson helped. If not, please see your teacher for questions.